Faith Office. Also, we have Reverend John Watson, he is the chairman of the Sherman Park Academy Association, and also a resident of the 26th Ward, and she's the board member of the Sherman Park Academy Association, which is Winterling Township. Thank you.
Mr. President, members of the board, I'd like to have from my guest today, Maureen McDonald, the St. Louis Association of Realtors. She's over in this corner now. Couldn't find her over where she normally is. And Dan Gunther, a constituent from Town Park.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I'd like to have my honored guest, Alderman from the St. Louis government.
Mr. President, members of the board, I'd like to have Linda Twiner as my special guest today.
Thank you,
Mr. President, members of the board. As my special guest today, I'd like to have David Holmes from the St. Louis Liquor Club, Mike Brady from Plumbers and Trade Fitters Local 562, and with me today are two quorum fellows following my footsteps, Marina Valeria and Sarah Rahim, and then also Chelsea Merita.
Mr. President, members of the board, I'd like to have as my special guest, Mrs. Tarsella Taylor, who is a resident in the parcel of land that we are going to put into the domain on today and take her family home for 60 years away.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to also have from our guest, Ryan Lynch from the St. Louis Police Officers Association and every other police officer that's here today.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. Mr. President, I would like to introduce Ms. Ollie Stewart and a group of seniors from the South Side of Wellness Center as my guests this morning.
Alderman 16.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I would like to have as my special guest today, Mr. Anthony Lancia with the AGC.
Alderman 22nd.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the board. I'd like to have as my special guest, Mr. Chris Fickle, and he worked branch on teams.
Alderman 26.
Good morning, Mr. President. Again, I'll be remiss to forget a good friend of mine and an excellent gentleman who has led the city of St. Louis on a lot of fights. An excellent man. He is the former comptroller, Burris Jones, and a resident of the 26th Ward. Thank you.
We also are assigned to have with us today the Cancer Support Community, Renata Sled, and F. Scott Gee. Please raise your hands. So let's give them a round of applause. Alderman from 18.
Mr. President, members of the board, I'd like to welcome a special guest today,
Any further introductions? Alderman from the 10th, like to wrap us up.
Pardon me, we have a traffic jam over here. I called my calls, he's gonna be putting a stop sign.
Yeah.
Mr. President, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to be here as we get into the weekend to celebrate not only Mardi Gras, Valentine's Day, and actually this would have to be Friday the 13th. But what I actually do have is a guest for once. It was on this day in 1880 that Thomas Edison discovered the Edison effect. We are fortunate to have with us a gentleman who was looking over his shoulder and said, "Hey, Tom, turn the light on me." Mr. Fred Steffen himself.
Approval of minutes. Alderman from 18th, recognize on approval of minutes.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, I move for the approval of the minutes of January 30th.
Moved by Alderman from 18th, second by Alderman from 20. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Report of city officials.
Report of city officials can be found in sections A, B, and C of the agenda and have been placed in all Alderman's mailboxes. I have from the sign of the mayor the following correspondence. Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for appointment to the Grove Community Improvement District Board of Directors. The appointment of Fran Ranera, a property owner whose term will expire on June 30, 2018. The appointment of Brian Pratt, a property owner whose term will expire on June 30, 2018. The reappointment of Kelly Kenter, a business owner whose term will expire on June 30, 2018. The reappointment of Jack Bumstart, a property owner whose term will expire on June 30, 2018. The reappointment of Austin Barzanti, a property owner whose term will expire on June 30th, 2018. The reappointment of Chip Schloss, a property owner whose term will expire on June 30th, 2018. On behalf of the Grove Community Improvement District Board of Directors, I respectfully request for approval of these appointments. Sincerely, Francis G. Slay, Mayor, City of St. Louis.
Alderman from the 17th, you recognize on the mayor's appointment to the Grove Community Improvement District Board of Directors.
Yes, Mr. President, I move that we approve the appointments of the mayor.
Moved by Alderman from the 17th, and take a second on that motion, second by Alderman from the 25th, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individual for appointment to the Airport Arts Advisory Committee. The appointment of Mr. Leslie Markle, a resident of the 8th Ward, whose term will expire on December 10, 2019. I respectfully request for approval of this appointment. Sincerely, Francis G. Slay, Mayor, City of St. Louis.
Alderman from the 28th, recognize on the mayor's appointment to the Airport Arts Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the appointment, to confirm the mayor's appointments to the Airport Advisory Committee.
Second. Moved by Alderman from the 28th, second by Alderman from the 20th, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individual for appointment to the Missouri History Museum Sub-District. The appointment of Jeremy Colbert, a resident of the 26th Ward, whose term will expire on September 30, 2016. I respectfully request for approval of this appointment. Sincerely, Francis G. Slay, Mayor, City of St. Louis.
Alderman from the 28th, you recognize on the mayor's appointment to the Missouri History Museum Sub-District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to confirm the mayor's appointment to the Missouri History Museum Subdistrict.
Moved by Alderman from the 28th, seconded by Alderman from the 6th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individual for appointment to the local central business district. The appointment of James L. Edwards Jr., a resident of the 19th Ward, whose term will expire on December 31st, 2018. On behalf of the local central business district, I respectfully request for approval of this appointment. Sincerely, Francis G. Slay, Mayor, City of St. Louis.
Alderman from the 6th, you recognize on the mayor's appointment to the local central business district.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, I move for appointment to the local business district.
Moved by Alderman from the 6th, seconded by Alderman from the 25th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for reappointment to the Board of Adjustment. The reappointment of Sally Burke, who resides at 6828 Scanlon, and whose term will expire on December 18, 2015. The reappointment of John Albert, who resides at 2744 Bird, and whose term will expire on December 18, 2015. The reappointment of John Caruso, who resides at 5535 Columbia, whose term will expire on December 18, 2015. I respectfully request your approval of these appointments. Sincerely, Francis G. Slay, Mayor, City of St. Louis.
Alderman from the 17th, recognize on the mayor's appointment to the Board of Adjustments.
Yes, Mr. President, I move that we approve the mayor's appointments to the Board of Adjustment.
Moved by Alderman from the 17th, seconded by Alderman from the 16th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries.
Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for appointment to the North Broadway Parish Community Improvement District. The resident of St. Louis County. The appointment of Kyle Killing, a resident of St. Louis County. All of these terms expire on June the 20th, 2017. On behalf of the North Broadway Cary Community Improvement District, I respectfully request your approval of these appointments. Sincerely, Francis G. Slade, Mayor, City of St. Louis.
Alderman from the second, recognized on the mayor's appointment to the North Broadway Cary Community Improvement District.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I move for the approval of appointments to the North Broadway Cary Community Improvement District.
Moved by Alderman from the second, seconded by Alderman from the 14th. Any discussion? Alderman from the first.
President, members of the board, if the Alderman from the second would yield, please.
Alderman.
Question.
Alderman from the second, will you yield for question to the Alderman? Alderman from the first, Alderman from the second has denied the
Roll call.
There's been a request for roll.
Yes, just wanted, since I'm not going to give a question, then I'll have to make my statements, okay? So there's denied question. You had some questions about all.
Please proceed.
I thought someone asked a question.
There was a, I didn't hear it for you.
Okay.
No, she's just saying that she's asking for a roll call. We're still in the discussion. We're still in the discussion phase. I have not started the roll call. Please proceed.
My questions were going to be, I had never seen an improvement district, any other thing, where the whole family or all family members seem to be one family that are on something. So that was just interesting to me. I wanted to just ask about that. My second question, which someone said to me, and I don't like to hear secondhand, I wanted to hear, is that all these people are from out of town. What kind of community improvement district do you have? Everybody's from out of town, and they're all from the same family. Those are going to be my questions. And at this point, I do answer.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderman from the second, would you like to close? I already made my motion. It's been moved and seconded that we affirm the aforementioned members to the North Broadway Cary Community Improvement District. There's been a request for roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Tyus. Alderman Flowers. Alderman Bosley. Alderman Moore. Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Ingracia. Alderman Conway. Alderman Worthing. Alderman Palmer. Alderman Villa. Alderman Honovitz. Alderwoman Murphy. Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Green. Alderwoman Behringer. Alderman Rhodey.
Wasn't feeling great.
Alderman Kennedy. Alderwoman Davis.
So he has a sticker.
Alderman Schmidt. Alderman French. Alderman Boyd. Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Ogilvy. Alderman Cone. Alderman Williamson. Alderman Carter. Alderwoman Cruzen. President Reed. Alderman Palmer. Alderwoman Davis. Alderman Vaccaro. 26 aye votes, 1 no vote.
I vote to stay in the motion. Alderman from the second. And the aforementioned members to the North Broadway Cary Community Improvement District.
That's the extent of report of city officials.
With dispense with line item 7, would anyone like to take any bills off of any of our former accountants? Would anyone like to take any bills off of any of our former accountants? We will dispense with line items 8 through 12, second reading.
Following board bill was reported out of the Public Safety Committee, Board Bill 208, Committee Substitute, sponsored by Alderman and Alderwomen. French, Kennedy, President Reed, Davis, Williamson, Carter, Hubbard, Moore, Bosley, Flowers, Young, Ingracia, Mayor Slade, Cruzen, Conway, Green, and Cone. And ordinance establishing a civilian oversight board and containing a severability clause. Aruba Corporation for certain city-owned property located in City Block 5114, property known as 4213 Gibson, upon receipt of it in consideration of sum of $375,000 and containing an emergency clause. That's the extent of our second reading.
Alderman from the 21st, you recognize.
In the rules and move Board Bill 208 to be substituted for perfection only.
Been moved by the Alderman from the 21st, and take a second on that motion. Seconded by the Alderman from the second. There's been a request for roll call, which is the case since we are suspending the rules. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Tyus. No. Alderman Flowers. Aye. Alderman Bosley. Aye. Alderman Moore. Aye. Alderman Hubbard. Aye. Alderman Ingracia. Yes. Alderman Conway. Aye. Alderman Workman.
No.
Alderman Ballmer.
No.
Alderman Villa.
No.
Alderman Horowitz.
No.
Alderman Murphy. No. Alderman Howard.
No.
Alderman Green.
Aye.
Alderman Barringer.
No.
Alderman Rhodey.
Aye.
Alderman Kennedy.
Aye.
Alderman Davis. Alderman Schmidt.
Aye.
Alderman French. Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro.
No.
Alderman Ogilvy.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
No.
Alderman Williamson.
Aye.
Alderman Carter.
Aye.
Alderman Cruzen. I didn't hear. President Reed.
Aye.
Alderman Davis. Aye votes, 12 no votes.
By your vote, you failed to sustain the motion, Alderman from the 21st. Dispense with line item 14, perfection consent.
Board Bill 268, sponsored by Alderman Cruzen, an ordinance adopting and approving the petition to amend the petition to establish the Central West End Business Community Improvement District to add property to the Central West End Business Community Improvement District and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 235, sponsored by Alderwoman Ingracia and President Reed, an ordinance repealing the requirement of approval of the city's land commission of all applications for proposed residential structures or uses that are to be governmentally subsidized, repealing section 1 of ordinance 56167 and containing emergency clause. Board Bill 242, sponsored by Alderman Conway and ordinance recommended by the planning commission to change the zoning of property from B2 family dwelling and H area commercial to the H area commercial district only for property at 2700 South Grand and containing emergency clause. Board Bill 260, sponsored by Alderman Ingracia, President Reed and Alderwoman Davis, and ordinance amending the definition under the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency, repealing section 2 of ordinance 67119 and enacting new section in lieu thereof to include the definition source of income and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 269, sponsored by Alderwoman Ingracia, and ordinance affirming adoption of a redevelopment plan, redevelopment area, redevelopment project, and authorizing the execution of a redevelopment agreement between the city and Capital and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 270,
pass?
No, they didn't want to suspend the rules, but they put together a little plan to try to stop it.
So is it stalled or it's dead?
No, it's not stalled. We still have to another meeting. So, but now we just gonna try to figure out what happened because it looked like that the white folks met.
Yeah, that was my impression. That was my impression. That's my impression of it.
Phase 2 redevelopment project containing a surplus clause. Board Bill 238, committee substitute, sponsored by Alderman Williamson, and orders to regulate employer and employee working relationships between the city and all employees under the classified service, including compensation plan, terms and conditions of employment, benefits, leave of absence, and authorization for the deferred compensation plan, repealing orders 69189 and 69617, allocating certain other employees to a grade with grades and including anniversary clause. That's the extent of perfection consent.
Alderman from the 18th, recognized on the motion for the perfection consent calendar.
I mean, I know what happened. Yeah.
Alderman from the 18th. Alderman from the 18th. Alderman from the 18th, you recognize on the motion for the perfection consent calendar.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, I move for adoption of the perfection.
No,
Moved by Alderman from the 18th, entertain a second on that motion, second by Alderman from the 26th, any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Board bills for perfection.
Board Bill 232, sponsored by Alderman Davis, and orders recommended by the Airport Commission, Board of Public Service, and the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing the director of the Federal Airport General Contractor to enter into an executed agreement and a contract of sale between St. Louis and North Park Partners for the sum of $150,000 containing a severability clause.
Alderman from the 19th, recognize on perfection of board bill number 232.
Mr. President, members of the board, I move for adoption of board bill, board bill 232.
It's been moved by Alderman from the 19th, seconded by Alderman from the 6th. Alderman from the 19th, please proceed.
You're better. You alright? I was worried about you, man.
I'm better.
Yeah.
It's the swelling's gone down.
They full of shit.
They punched me out of my chair, punched me out of my
I didn't know that they punched you.
Knocked my glasses 10 feet in the street. Yeah.
That's fucked up.
They're vicious. They're vicious. It wasn't just me, there was 6 other people there.
Why?
Any further discussion?
And I was
Further
choking.
discussion?
I was
Moved
moaning. I was
by Alderman from the
live
19th, seconded by Alderman from the 6th. that we
They stole my
perfect board
phone
bill
and broke my
232.
monopole.
All in favor,
Did you get a lawyer?
signify by saying aye.
Oh, there was a lawyer waiting for me when I got
Motion
out.
carries.
Oh, so you good? Okay, well, let me know
Board
if you
bills
need
for suspension.
For real.
Alderman from the 22nd, you recognize?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I move to suspend the rules to move the following board bills from the perfection consent calendar to the third reading consent calendar.
Moved by Alderman from the 22nd, and take a second on that motion.
What?
Seconded by Alderman from the 6th. Any discussion?
Point of order.
Alderman from the 24th.
I didn't hear the Alderman from the 22nd mention any bills direction.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following board bills: 268, 235, 242, 260, 269, 270, 271, 233, substitute, 232.
Been moved by Alderman from the 22nd, second. Yes, but it's on the consent calendar, just to move it forward, then you can ask that it be moved to the regular third reading calendar. The moved by Alderman from the 22nd.
Mr. President, I want to ask a point of order. Would it be okay that I withdraw my motion and reread the motion?
Please withdraw your motion.
I'll let I like to reread the motion for clarity. Okay. I like to suspend the rules. I move to suspend the rules, move the following board bills from the perfection calendar and consent to the third reading consent. And the following ordinances: 268, 235, 242, 260, 269, 270, 271, 238 from the 17th, and 232.
Been moved by Alderman from the 22nd, I entertain a second on that motion. Seconded by Alderman from the 25th. Suspend the rules for the purposes of bringing the aforementioned bills down to the third reading consent calendar. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Tyus. Aye. Alderman Flowers. Aye. Alderman Bosley. Aye. Alderman Moore. Aye. Alderman Hubbard. Aye. Alderman Ingracia. Aye. Alderman Conway.
Aye.
Alderman Orton.
Aye.
Alderman Palmer.
Aye.
Alderman Villa. Alderman Arnold. Alderman Murphy. Alderman Howard. Alderman Green. Alderman Behringer. Aye. Alderman Rhodey. Alderman Kennedy. Alderman Davis. Alderman Schmidt.
Aye.
Alderman French. Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Ogilvy.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Williamson. Alderman Carter.
Aye.
Alderman Cruzen. President Reed.
Aye.
Alderman Villa. Alderman Arnold. Alderman Howard. Aye. Alderman Green. Alderman French.
Aye.
27 aye votes.
By your vote, sustain the motion of Alderman from the 22nd and move the aforementioned bills to the third reading consent calendar. Third reading consent.
Board Bills 250, 264, 210, 211, 240, 248, 212, 213, 223, 224, 234, 236, 237, 239, 243, 253, 254, 255, 257, 258, 261, 262, 244, 268, 235, 242, 260, 269, 270, 271, 238, committee substitute, 232.
Alderman from the 18th, recognized on the third reading. Alderman from the 18th. I know you're busy with it. Alderman from the 18th, recognized on the motion for third reading consent calendar.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, I move for the adoption of the third reading consent calendar. Second.
Moved by Alderman from the 18th, seconded by Alderman from the 9th. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Tyus. Alderman Flowers. Alderman Bosley. Alderman Moore. Alderman Hubbard. Alderman Ingracia. Alderman Conway. Alderman Orton. Alderman Palmer.
Aye.
Alderman Villa. Alderman Arnold. Alderman Murphy. Alderman Howard. Alderman Green. Alderman Behringer. Alderman Rhodey. Alderman Kennedy. Alderman Davis. Alderman Schmidt.
Aye.
Alderman French. Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Ogilvy.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Williamson. Alderman Cruzen. President Reed.
Aye.
Alderman Arnold. 27 aye votes.
By your vote, to sustain the motion, Alderman from the 18th and third reading finally passes the aforementioned bill. Third reading, report of endorsement.
Board Bill 259, sponsored by Alderman Hubbard, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Enforcement authorizing the execution of a first amendment to amend and restate redevelopment agreement by and between the city and Northside Regeneration and containing a severability clause.
Alderman from the 5th is recognized on the third reading finally passes. Board Bill number 259.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Basically, what board bill is,
Make a motion.
oh, I'm sorry. I would like to make a motion for final passage of board bill 259.
Moved by Alderman from the 5th, seconded by Alderman from the 14th. Alderman from the 5th, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Basically, what board bill 259 does is that it amends and permits money in the special allocation funds to be used to cover the cost that SLDC will incur from the Northside project. This money will be used for management consulting services, pursuant to an agreement dated November 3rd, 2014 with MWH Americas Inc., which will assist in the implementation of the Northside plan. MWH will coordinate and manage the street and alley vacation process, including the required utility abandonment / relocation with the various affected utilities as may be necessary to prepare property for use by the National Geospatial Agency.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderman from the 5th to recognize the clerk.
I would like to renew my motion.
It's been moved and seconded that the third reading finally pass. Board Bill number 259. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Tyus.
No.
Alderman Flowers. Alderman Bosley. Alderman Moore. Alderman Hubbard. Alderman Gracia.
Aye.
Alderman Conway. Alderman Norman.
Aye.
Alderman Palmer. Alderman Bell. Alderman Arnold. Alderman Murphy. Alderman Howard. Alderman Green. Alderman Behringer. Alderman Rowley. Is that aye?
Yes.
Alderman Kennedy. Alderman Davis. Alderman Schmidt.
Aye.
Alderman French. Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Oglesby.
No.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Williamson. Is that aye? Alderman Carter. Alderman Cruzen. President Reed.
Aye.
Alderman Arnold.
Aye.
Alderman French. Alderman Cone.
Aye.
21 aye votes, 7 no votes.
By your vote, to sustain the motion. Alderman from the 5th, third reading final pass. Board Bill number 259.
Board Bill 265, floor substitute sponsored by Alderman Hubbard and Alderman Bosley, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan for the Cass, Jefferson, Parnell, Montgomery Street, North 22nd Street redevelopment area.
Madam Clerk, make note of the board bill is 263 for substitute.
I'm sorry, 263, floor substitute.
All those in fifth, we recognize on third reading and final passage, the board bill number 263 for substitute.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move for adoption of Board Bill 263 for
Moved by Alderman from the fifth, entertain a second on that motion. Seconded by Alderman from the third. Alderman, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President, and members of the board. I believe that it's good to revisit some of the things that we discussed last week, but I think it's more important for us to understand the task that lies before us. I don't want to repeat some of those same arguments that we heard when we perfected this bill, but I would like to change how we characterize Board Bill 263 for substitute as amended. I see a development process in the neighborhood that I represent and has been ignored and suffered steady deterioration for more than 60 years. Think about 60 years of disinvestment, you know. Think about whether or not you should make this decision. But due to an opportunity to save more than 3,100 jobs, let that resonate with us, 3,100 jobs for the city of St. Louis. The residents are getting more attention from more people than anyone can remember. These same residents, some who are homeowners, now have a chance to leave their houses, many on dilapidated blocks, to live in new homes on newly constructed blocks in their same neighborhoods. These are concessions that are being made by myself and just the city in general, because we know that this is an issue that is near and dear to a lot of hearts. And that's something that may not have necessarily been done in the past, but we understand what it means to be connected to your community. And so we worked long and hard to come up with some strategies to make sure that if people want to stay in their neighborhood, that they can definitely stay in their neighborhood. Some of these homes that I speak of, it would be too expensive for them to upgrade and have improved energy efficiency like new windows and doors and new heating and cooling systems, among other things. They need modern security features, and I can attest to the fact that some of the members in my community have a hard time doing things as simple as paying utility bills. So clearly, you know, the means are not there. I don't want to generalize everybody, but the means are not there to keep these homes up. So I see this as an opportunity, while some may see it as we're displacing 40 homeowners. And you know, it's sad that that's what's out there in the media. No one is talking about the numerous calls that I've gotten with people seeing this as a blessing for them to be able to do something better. But I'll stay on task and just further explain that the infrastructure around these homes has collapsed, as the streets, the sewers, and utility services all need attention. Our mortgage-driven economy keeps their property values low and their insurance rates high. The National Geospatial Intelligence Agency originally looked at the old Fort Idaho housing complex as a possible site to move their new facility. Now, I agree that early on, we all thought that Fort Idaho would be the site. I can attest firsthand, you know, some of the atrocities that were associated with Fort Idaho. I mean, when you house people in such a manner, a lot of things can happen, and I looked at this as an opportunity for the government to right some of their wrongs. I wrote a 40-page paper on public housing in Fort Idaho. Some members of my family are no longer here because of some of the things that took place in Fort Idaho.
No, I had two.
So I think it's definitely important for us to understand that although this area won't totally encompass Fort Idaho like we originally thought, that it's a part of this process. Out of 200 potential sites, the site made it to the final four. Then last year, the agency decided the 35-acre site was too small. They needed approximately 100 acres. That's how we got where we are today. Originally, this area was not this big, but when the federal government came to us and told us that they needed a 500-foot perimeter because this is a national security facility, we had to make some adjustments, and I think that the city worked long and hard on trying to accommodate their demands, and to be quite honest, that's why we are where we are. People feel like we're moving fast ahead on a gamble, but I say, why not? When I can walk through my ward and see one house on a block, or, despair and think about the 60 years of disinvestment, think about the crime, think about a ward that has the highest rate, just in everything. The average household is headed by a female. The average income is less than $20,000. We have the lowest life expectancy, the highest infant mortality rate. So these are the conditions that are happening in the 5th Ward, and I understand that people may feel some type of way because it's their homes, but I tell you this, look out for what's in the best interest of everybody. Just take yourself and your belief on how you feel about your home and where you live in, and think about what's in the greater good of the city. When we think about 3,100 jobs and we think about 2.7 million in earnings tax that we'll lose, trust me, that 2.7 million will have to come from somewhere. And if we know how things has happened in the past, we'll probably feel it before anyone else does. So think about the overall economic impact that this will have on our economy. Don't for 1 minute think that those people with those 3,100 jobs won't spend $1 in the 5th Ward, won't spend $1 in the city. I mean, they're probably tired of commuting right now. We're in an area that has a tip, $390 million tip. That once we lay infrastructure and do things, it'll be right for a lot of great things. And I know if I'm a commuter and I'm living in Winsville, driving to St. Louis, if there's a house for $200,000 or $300,000 that I can afford, I'm moving close. We have a lot of things going on, and I just ask that people be considerate. Let's talk about the boogeyman in the room that I'm honestly kind of upset about, because people are shoving it down the throats of seniors in my ward when they should be resting in their glory days. They're stressing right now because people are talking about eminent domain. Let's educate ourselves on eminent domain. The city has used it before.
Right.
But you haven't heard all this backlash associated with it. But I guess I have a problem with so-called activists and protesters, knocking on doors in my ward, threatening people, saying that they're going to lose their homes. This may be a blessing to some of those homeowners, and until you live there like I have, and until you understand the history of the community, like my family has, who's been there since the 40s, then you understand whatever type of development we can get, that's a blessing. Everybody is not in a position to say that their home is structurally sound, and we've been here so many years and we did that. That's a minority in my community. We don't even have a lot of homes. We have a lot of apartments, basically. So when I think about where I need to be as a leader, will I stop 3,100 jobs for a few? Now, I'm considerate about it. I understand where the fight is. I understand, how it is to have a connection to your community, but I don't think we should sacrifice 3,100 jobs for 30 dwellings, especially when people are willing to offer you a considerable amount of money and are willing to locate you in something new. So, in talking about eminent domain, just know that it's a measure of last resort. And frankly, we hope that we don't even have to use it. But if we do, the city will treat everyone fairly. If you know the history of me and my family and my legacy, we've always helped the downtrodden. We're products of public housing. So we would no way let someone bombard someone out of their home. That just won't happen on my watch, and I won't rest at all. So when you think about that we're going to save thousands of jobs and bring the first large-scale economic development project to North St. Louis in 60 years, that's something to consider. There are only 2 NGA facilities in the nation like the one we have here in St. Louis, but NGA has outgrown its current space. It is looking to build a $1.6 billion facility to grow its operations and workforce. And you know, we keep talking about the 3,100, but this 3,100 has the potential to create 7,000 jobs. And when you create jobs, you create homes, you create a good school system. And these are the things that people aren't talking about. People are in the media, spewing misinformation, being media hogs, you know, operating on talk and shop without educating themselves on the process. NGA will move if we do nothing. We will lose 3,100 high-paying jobs. The average salary of those jobs is $75,000 a year. And nearly 2.4 million a year. These are not speculations, this is a fact. Like I said, homeowners will be treated fairly. LCRA will work with homeowners to buy their properties at market rates. We'll help them find a new home and pay for their relocation. This doesn't happen in most cases. Homeowners will be given 3 options, and this is something that I've fought hard for because I understand that just to simply offer someone a new home, it would do a disservice to them to offer them a new home that they can't even afford. I understand that there are some homeowners who don't owe anything, and you are a senior and on a fixed income because everybody is not blessed to have a retirement and a pension and all that stuff. But it's important that we make sure that transition is a smooth one, if in fact we have to do it. So of those 3 options, they'll be able to move into an existing home, or either have a new home built for them, or in some cases, physically move their existing home to a new lot, or there may be some other creative alternatives presented through this process. SLDC has indicated that it now has approval to offer options to property owners pending selection by the NGA. We don't want to have to use the route of eminent domain, and we won't if we don't absolutely have to. The city has experience doing this. Some of the sites where eminent domain has been used is North Broadway Industrial Area near Love's Truck Stop. They use it to assist with Bashan and Corner River High School and some areas around Field School.
Alderman from the 25th, 24th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I did most of my talking on this last week, but I'll also reiterate, I don't envy anybody, in the position to make this decision. But I think when writing the history of St. Louis, I think this is going to appear as a very dismal chapter in that history. And I think it's important that somebody just raise how disgusted some of us feel with the federal government.
We ask the people in the gallery to please refrain.
Under the best case scenario here is that we keep the jobs that are in the city, but we end up with another vacant federal facility off of Broadway, where NGA is right now, that of course there are no plans for. So in the long run, we've moved some jobs around, we've expended some local money, but we haven't expanded the pie at all. The worst case scenario is we end up using eminent domain to push people out, some of which don't want to leave, and we don't keep the facility. And boy, are we going to have egg on our face at that point. Is it any surprise that there's some cities in this country that struggle when this is how the federal government treats us? Every major policy for the last 60 years handed down to us by Washington, D.C. has been to level neighborhoods, to build highways through neighborhoods, to move people out, to force people out, to depopulate St. Louis. And a lot of times we bought into that as a good thing. And in some cases, I think we've learned our lessons now. But boy, is the damage apparent. And wouldn't it be nice if there was really a sea change in Washington, D.C., and our representatives there said, you know what, we're actually going to support St. Louis. And we're going to support cities like St. Louis that have really taken some major hits because of federal policy. These things were not accidents. So obviously, I think we expect this to pass, and I honestly don't blame people for voting for this. And to be perfectly honest, if I knew NGA was definitely relocating to this area, I would probably hold my nose and vote for it too, because it's a lot of jobs. But as is, where we have to roll the dice with the gun to our head from the federal government to say, maybe we'll let you keep these jobs, I just think it's an unacceptable position. And there's been 60 years of federal violence committed against this community by the federal government, and I'm sick of it. I've had enough. So I'm going to vote no. And I hope somebody's listening, because the whole federal government needs to reassess what they've done in the cities and what they're doing in the cities. There's a lot of cities like St. Louis that need some help. And I hope this gets somebody's attention in Washington, D.C. Thanks.
Alderman from the third.
Mr. President, and members of the board, I'm very much support this. If any of you would ever choose at this point in time to take the ride between Highway 70 and Salisbury, and Salisbury turns into Jefferson turns into Broadway, you will see that there is a marked difference in how it looks now. Much of that is that place used to be a horrible place. When people came off of Highway 55, Highway 70, going south on Salisbury, they used to speed through there like 40 going west. And the reason they did is because that whole neighborhood was a mess. And it looked like you were going to get hijacked, your car taken away from you every block you went. But I invite you to go and ride through there tonight, and you see what has happened. There's over $20 million, much more than that, has been spent in that area where Salisbury and North Florissant and Natural Bridge come together. You can ride over there and look at that now. There's over $500 million worth of development that has taken place over there in that area. And so it's not it's really not wrong, because when you look at Pruitt Island, it's a mess. At one time, it was a beautiful place and the home of so many people who had nowhere else to go. That's all gone now. And you ride over there, that's a mess. That Pruitt Island site, some of that's in the third ward. That's why I support this bill. There is absolutely nothing that can be done so well that nobody can find fault with it. And I think that because there's an opportunity to bring development opportunities to that area down there, which is a mess today, is a step in the right direction. There is nothing that can be done so well that nobody will find fault with it. Just think about the years ago when the wagon trains.
Alderman, could you pause for a second? I'd ask the mayor's lobbyist, could you move to one of the designated areas? In the past meetings, I've motioned to you, but I can't get your attention today, so I just want to tell you publicly. Alderman, please proceed.
I just think about the times when the wagon trains, and much of that exploration of the West began down there where we got that arch now. Suppose it hadn't started down there. There is such a horrible mess over there at Pruitt Island site. And I invite you to take a ride between Jefferson Avenue, which is the oldest street in the entire city of St. Louis, that goes from one end of the city to the other. You get off of highways, the highway over there, 70, and you come over Salisbury. Salisbury turns into Jefferson, Jefferson turns into Parnell, and Parnell turns into the Broadway. If you go and ride through there, some of that is so ugly, but when you get off that highway, that was because people took the opportunity fixed up all of that stuff. And you're going to be there now between Highway 70 and Natural Bridge. That is a very, very nice neighborhood now. And what's going to happen when we go and we have restore, rebuild what's on the other side of the Natural Bridge? It's going to be a positive to the city. I know people don't like it, but it's ugly as it can be right now. And we need to do something. And the journey of 1,000 miles starts in a single step. And if you don't take a step, you're not going anywhere. That is a mess over there right now. And we need to be able to go in there and do something, because whatever we do is going to be positive. It's going to attract other people to come in there and invest some money. The city doesn't have it. We don't have enough money to pay enough people to keep our streets clean on a regular basis and our alleys paved on a regular basis. We laid off so many city employees because we didn't have the money. But if we're able to bring people in to rehab an area like that Rhode Island site down there, that's going to bring more money into the city where we'll be able to do some things in neighborhoods that you who are complaining don't even live in down there. But it's also going to help your neighborhood, because whenever you improve one portion of the city, it helps us all. So I'm not in favor of anybody losing their property, their land, and not at all. But we certainly need to do something about that ugly site down there in Rhode Island. At one time, that was a place where people who could go nowhere else had an opportunity to live in a safe, sanitary, decent house. But when you go look at it now, there's a mess over there now, and it needs to come down, and we need to be able to do something else, because this city doesn't have enough land to go and expand. We are landlocked, and what we need to do is take what we got, fix it up, rehabilitate it, and be able to attract more people in here who would ordinarily run someplace else because of that ugly down there. So I invite everybody to take a ride, get off of Highway 70 over there, and you come down Salisbury. Salisbury turns into Jefferson, Jefferson turns into, not that street, but Parnell. And you go right through there and see how horrible that looks now. But when you get off of Highway 70 and you look to your left, all those new buildings over there and those people that are living in those apartments, in those townhouses, they have an opportunity to purchase that. After they've been in there and paid the rent for 15 years, they get a chance to purchase it, and some of the money that they put into that building goes towards them being able to rehab by those properties that are over there. So I know up front you don't like it, but all you have to do is go through there now and see what you got. Anything will be better than that, but I think this plan is going to be a whole lot better than that, and it's going to add to the base, to the tax base of this city, and the city needs money very bad.
All right, thank you, Alderman. Alderman 21st.
For a few reasons. First is that what we're constantly faced down here with a series of false choices. We're told that somehow simply passing this bill that gives broad authority, which includes the will lead to NGA relocating, and that's somehow creating those approximately 3,000 jobs. But that is not the case. As I said last week, what we're talking about here is a gamble. There is no certainty that NGA is going to choose that location. There are other locations they are looking at. Those other locations do not at all require the same amount of pre-work done as we're proposing them. And so the only thing that we know for sure will happen is that the city, through its indicated LCRA, is going to borrow $8 to $10 million to acquire land and negotiate with property owners, including business owners, to acquire their property under the threat of imminent donation. And at the end of the day, after after a year, maybe a year and a half, before the NGA makes their decision, the city will have basically flattened a neighborhood. And if NGA decides, which is a very good chance they will, to locate somewhere else other than the city of St. Louis, we will have forced out folks from their houses. We will have flattened a neighborhood. We will reaffirm what many people already knew, which is that the city of St. Louis does not care much about the folks who live in the neighborhood. If you drive those neighborhoods now, if someone from outside came to St. Louis and visited and drove through those neighborhoods now, what they would notice and they would see is that this seems to be an area that the city of St. Louis does not really care that much about. Well, that's how folks have felt over there for a very long time. 6 years ago, this body passed a development agreement giving sole authority to develop that large area over there to one single developer who was running into all kinds of trouble. And as a result, half a decade later, we haven't seen anything close to what was promised. And so, one of the things he asked for from the very beginning was eminent domain authority. And we promised, people promised, in countless meetings down there, that in no way would their homes be taken away with eminent domain for this development. In the questioning in the committee on this board bill, questioning the folks from LCRA and SLPC, we asked them, so what happens if NGA does not take this site? The city will have borrowed close to $10 million, maybe more, to acquire all of this, and we're stuck with it. How are we going to pay that money back? What are we going to do with all that land over there? Is there a plan B? And we were told basically the plan B is called peace. And that to me is a go around to give him eminent domain power, which he was asking for from the beginning. And so we do need to ask those questions about what if it doesn't play out in the best case scenario. The best case scenario is that the NGA decides to take that, redevelop that area, put a very large amount of money into redeveloping that area, and bring new life there. And in fact, if that is what we were voting on, I would probably vote for it. But that is not what we're voting on. What we're voting is to take a seat at the gambling table and the ante that we have to pay while these folks on. And to me, that's just plain wrong. That's just the moral fact. It's just wrong. And, you know, sometimes we have some tough choices down here, but to me, this isn't a tough choice. In an area like City of St. Louis, which unfortunately has so much vacant land, so many vacant parcels, to think that we would have to take people's houses or even threaten to take people's houses or businesses in order to acquire enough land for development is just, it's just mind-blowing. And so I'm going to vote against this as I did last week, and I encourage other people to vote against it as well. Because one thing we do want to see is a place that is welcoming, a place that appreciates those folks who have stuck out, appreciate those homeowners and those businesses that have suffered, especially in some of the rough neighborhoods in our city, for decades, when we haven't done what we're supposed to do as a city. And so I will disagree a little bit with my colleague from the 24th. This isn't a situation that the federal government created for us. This is a situation that we created for ourselves. The city of St. Louis has done an awful job over the last decades of maintaining quality of life in neighborhoods, of protecting the rights of citizens, of protecting the rights of people to live free of violence, free of the awful effects of negligent homeowners and property owners, which Palmakey has been over there for many years. And so when we now talk about giving authority to a government agency to come and sit down with these folks to negotiate the purchase of their home under the threat of eminent domain and saying that somehow they're going to get fair market value, we do so knowing that fair market value has been artificially lowered for over 10 to 20 years over there. And that the actions, not only of Mr. McKee, but even of this board, in granting him such broad authority and not holding him accountable for promised development, promised upkeep of properties, have lowered property values, and have driven tens of hundreds of people from those areas. And so what we're left with is a mess. And it's, we can't put it all in the federal government, we can't even put it all in the key. It's really the failure of St. Louis City government and failure of leadership. So now we're here, and we are asked to value tax revenue generated from one entity over the property taxes, the sales taxes, the earnings taxes generated from the people who live in that area. We're asked to value a gamble over the property rights of folks who have stuck it out for years without the proper support from the city. And it's just wrong. And it's just wrong. The St. Louis Business Journal ran an article yesterday which highlighted another angle. We talked a lot about property owners. I think the property owners do deserve, homeowners do deserve the most attention. But there are also businesses over there. Businesses that have been there for a very long time. And Business Journal profile of businesses. And they're not happy with the idea of their family businesses being threatened with eminent domain. They're not thrilled with the idea of having to sit down with the government entity under the threat of eminent domain and negotiate a sales price for not only their building and all the equipment of their businesses inside those buildings, but their years and years of hard work of maintaining a business, building a business in the city of St. Louis, which is not easy to do, especially in those neighborhoods. And so to have that government turn on them like this, I think sends an awful signal. And we do this too often down here, where we pick winners and losers. Ballpark Village is another good example. You know, we bought into this idea and this promise of pie in the sky type things that really logically not going to happen. Didn't happen, and at the end of the day, in order to make something happen, we wound up picking winners over losers. And many of the businesses down there who've been there forever right now having to compete with the largely subsidized new ventures. And it's just unfair. We do that with hotels. It's tough to maintain a hotel in the city of St. Louis. When we come in and we pick a winner and subsidize them and make it even tougher for other businesses. It's live. Here we go again. Picking winners and losers. And this one couldn't be more clear case. It is clear who the losers will be. A lot of them represent today in the balcony here. They're asked to be heard. They have the signs. I can only imagine how frustrating that is. They live in this area, and they're the last to be considered. The very last to be considered. And that's just not how we should govern in this city. I think it's an awful message. And I think it reaffirms too many people's beliefs that the city of St. Louis too often values money and people. And I think that's wrong.
All for the first.
Mr. President, members of the board, I rise to oppose this board bill 263. I've been opposed to it from pretty much the beginning. I was opposed to it before I came back to this board. When I originally, Mr. McGee's land print or footprint was much larger, and it was going to probably encompass some of the land that I owned. In fact, I called the Alderman from the third at that point to assure me that it would not include that part, and it didn't. I want to thank the Alderman from the third for talking about that part of Hyde Park that runs from Natural Bridge on Salisbury over to I-70. I have been a long-time supporter, the Alderman knows that. Even before he was Alderman of the third, when he used to be the second ward, I have been down in Hyde Park rehabbing. I believe in older properties. I live in an older property that's almost 100 years old. You don't have to tear everything down. If you travel to Europe and things like that, what we call old, dilapidated, they call an opportunity, okay? So Europe does not tear the buildings down. And we have, when you go there, you'll see very different look. So when the Alderman talks about, look at what you see in Hyde Park and how that's been taken care of, and what he's doing, he is doing a great job. But I was there when everybody said, just what they're saying now about this. That could not happen. We went down to Hyde Park in 1979. And people said, why are you spending your dollars down there? What are you doing? Why are you investing? You invest about things that you care about, or you invest about things that you want to make money. I wanted to do both of them. Haven't made a lot of money, but care about the community. Do my business when I'm down there. People want to talk to all the shop owners, they know us. Because when I'm down there working, I'm in their businesses. I'm in the hardware store, I've been going to Crown Candy since 1979, which accounts for the weight that I've gained. But I've been to the hardware store down there, they all know me from going to the small businesses and being a part of it. I watched the real estate, $30 million plus down in, what is it, 13th Street Mall, whatever it is. I remember when they closed it off and then opened it back up. Been down there for a long time. And a lot of the people down there watch them stand their ground, black and white, and not move. Really, we, the city, should be looking at Hyde Park and the surrounding neighbors as a way of what should happen instead of as soon as somebody black moves in, we're moving. White people down there, they did not move, they stayed, they planted their feet, they rehabbed, they were not scared of color, they were scared of what was your character, not of what your color was. So just because you were black and you moved someplace, they didn't move, they stayed there. As I said before last week, everybody on the block that I own a property, that's a central piece of property in Hyde Park, is white. And they were very nervous when we did that building, but they all tell you they would take care of it. So when I drove through, I don't even have to ask me to drive through that area. I drive almost every day because I'm hands-on anyway. But I hadn't been up into where Miss Taylor lived, and that's my mistake. I mean, so I just drive down Jefferson, Parnell, Jefferson, I'm going home or turn on St. Louis Avenue, so I need to go up in there. If you just drive down Jefferson, you can see some poor conditions. You can see some of the houses that all people in the court has to deal with, where the bottom of the houses are just, the back of them are just falling down, and those can't be saved, and I don't try to pretend that they can't. But you will also see beautiful structures. Look at Miss Taylor's house, way better than the structures that we did. We did 4 buildings, at 19th Mountain Pride, we did several other apartments, but the one at 19th Mountain Pride didn't have a roof, had all kind of problems with it, and we rehabbed it back in 1980, first person moved in 87, no, 89, I guess it is. And it had no roof, had no back, we had to rehab it, we had to redo a wall, there was all kind of work we did. We didn't have the money, we continued to put the money into it. Before I got to the board, we did get some of the forgivable loan and some that wasn't forgivable. But I said we paid back, we were going to pay back. But the neighborhood is worth investing. When you have stakeholders who don't leave, who sit there and day after day, and month after month, and year after year, they are willing to put their life savings, their efforts into something, it sends a horrific message to people. And they see how the city says, well, we got these $3,000 we got to save, and so we got to wait where you live against these 3,000 jobs. And of course, everybody wants to save jobs. We need the money. We need the income. But you still also have to look at the history of how did that neighborhood get to be the way it is. What's been the history of what we have done to neighborhoods and certain communities? How did they get that way? People who were happy to believe, well, all the people who lived there, they just didn't take care of it, and so it went down. That's mostly not true. People love where they live, and if they're homeowners, they try to do the best they can. They may not be the richest of people, but they will do the best that they can. What is true is when you talk about the conditions of the streets and the sewers and stuff, that the city didn't take care of. Okay? They didn't do their part because they made some calculated decisions. I always talk about the Team 4 plan. People laugh and think that, oh, but when you read the Team 4 plan, which I have a copy, is that it talks about the disinvestment in North St. Louis and how to do that best. And you didn't have to. People would say, oh, we didn't, we never brought that down here, and we didn't ever pass that down at the board of law. No, we didn't pass it. But you don't have to. Mayor Shedmore was famous in saying you don't have to pass the plan to do it. And exactly, you do not have to. You can just, it's not even so benign, but you can just not get service. You can make it so hard for all the people that represent that community that you have to fight all the time. I drive through my alleys after people pick up the trash. In my neighborhood is homeowners. And I have to call, why did you pick up this? Why did you do this? It's a disinvestment, a disincentive to live there. We've decided that this is not worth putting the time and the money. We're going to put it someplace else. Other places you would not dare do that. but you can get away with that. You pick on the people that are as easy to get away with doing that. So that's what the city needs. And part of the T4 plan says that how do we get people out? One of the things we do when we do this investment in North St. Louis is that we make light industrial, okay? We make things like that. And we come up with, and that's what we're doing now. This is light industrial. I looked at these plans, how they've ever changed since this first thing, when we first started talking about this. And people talk about Pruitt-Igoe being sitting there for a long time. But for many years, I think most people might know this, the city didn't own Pruitt-Igoe. The federal government owned it, and we wanted it. We fought to get Pruitt-Igoe, which we finally got. So we had Pruitt-Igoe. We didn't know what to do with it. It had been better to let the federal government keep it, and they got the money, so we had Pruitt-Igoe. And then now we found out that Pruitt-Igoe is not such a good place. I told them to put this new project that started out, that's what we want to do. So I kind of looked at what kind of acreage are we talking about? Because not only I talked to lawyers about the amendment to lab, the Alderman from the 22nd got up last week and said, I think the amendment is great, and it was innovative, and it adds another layer of protection. It's, do you have the gun to my head, or do you have the gun a few steps away? You still got a gun to my head. When you have eminent domain is the ability of the government to take the person's property without their consent. And yet we didn't take that out of the bill committee. We did a substitute or amendment, and it says, well, you have to come back for each parcel when you want to do eminent domain. We did not add, had I known that the president's office was coming with this, I should have added, and I want to say this is my failure, I should have also added that we need a clause that says if we do not do this, then we need to take it in the domain out, okay? We need a sunset clause. We can do that with things that says, okay, this is here, but if this doesn't happen, we're not going to keep that gun over your head that we can take your property. That's what we need. That's my failure because I didn't offer it and I was very angry with myself and I left. And I complained that because I should have offered it as an amendment. It may not have passed, but it should be an amendment that says if we are not, so if the only reason we're doing this in the domain is because we got to save these jobs. If we don't get picked, why are we still living in the domain anyway? Okay? There's no reason for that to happen. And that's what happens when people who are doing amendments and write legislation and don't talk to you. But I looked at the whole situation. I talked to some city planners, and they started laughing at me. I'm married to a city planner. He said, well, when I hear this plan, it's very anti-urban. You're asking for 136 acres of property. So I started looking around. What's the city of St. Louis? The city of St. Louis is approximately 66 square miles, which is 42,368 acres. Forest Park is 1,371 acres. The current NGA site is nothing. I don't know what the exact acreage is, but the new acreage they need is 138 acres. And I started thinking about, well, boy, why do they need such a beautiful facility? I know the FBI is right down the street from headquarters, right down the street from City Hall on Market. They don't have that kind of acreage. I said, well, let's see, who is the most famous resident in the United States? That would be the White House. So let's see how many acreage that the White House has. The White House has 18 acres. And then they have a little part to the south that's 34 acres. So, and those 34 and 18 acres make up 52 acres, and that's called the President's Park. And so the President of the United States only needs 52 acres, but NGA needs 136 acres. And by the way, it's not really Pruitt-Igoe anymore. We want the places where the people live, because we need where you live, because we're more important than where you live. Getting these 3,000 jobs, that's more important, even though we don't really have a guarantee. But what my talking to other planners, they said, when you ask for that kind of acreage, 136 acres, that's not an urban plan. That's pretty much telling you they're not looking for urban. Most of the time, there's not many urban centers, unless you go to the easiest place to displace people, which are the marginalized and the people that you feel you decided are less important. You can't get 136 acres. The only place you can get 136 acres in most wards, you have to take their parks. We can go to Forest Park and get it, We might be able to go to Fairground Park and get it. We can go to Millport Park and get it. We can't come even to what is now called First Street Plan and get 136 acres, okay? That's an anti-urban plan. That is a plan that is laid out for a suburban community. And so in order to do it, we're often tripping over ourselves. We're telling people we're willing to put the gun to the heads of people who have been here for stakeholders for 60 years or more, and we're going to move them out because we're going to say that. Alderman from the 24th said that we will have egg on our face if we don't get this. No, we won't, because I do believe that there's a plan B. I don't, Paul McGee may be plan B, but they got a plan C and a plan D. Because Paul McGee, after 6 years, has not put one rock in the ground in the city of St. Louis. He has not done anything. So if we don't get it and we give it back to him, he'll be back here with another thing. But what I think the real thing that will happen is that they're going to divide this development into smaller parcels. And this way, we will have accumulated this land under the pretense that we were getting it because we're saving the 3,000 jobs. And we won't talk about anymore that, oh, we didn't get that. And by the way, we want to take this gun away from your head. How do you deal with having property up in the middle of something and living when you know that at any point you can have eminent domain come on you? How do you sell that? How if somebody wants to move in? What if you own property like that? How do you live under the threat of eminent domain when we've been saying for 5, 6 years that will not be? We, the government, have not dealt with these people in good faith. It is wrong to tell people 5 or 6 years you're not going to have eminent domain. And then to have a bill introduced on the 23rd or so of January, had occurred that next Wednesday. It didn't get out of committee a few days later. Then we have it that Friday, and it gets out of committee all of a sudden. And then we have second perfection and third reading within a little less than, it's less than a month. Okay, so in less than a month, we have changed our entire presentation as to what will happen. We are telling the people you're not as important because we got to save these jobs, and so it has to give it back to someone, and so it might as well be you. My suggestion is it might as well be someplace else. All those people who think that eminent domain is a good thing, I would suggest to them, let's put it on Lindo. Let me add me because I don't. Let's put it on Marketplace because the people will be hanging you. Okay, let's put it over on Euclid. North Euclid, let's put it in all these neighborhoods, down in Millmore Park. Let's put it every place where people say, well, we need to keep these 3,000 jobs. And so what we have to do is that we have to do it at the expense of other people. Because I've been posting in the domain for a long time. I did say, so let me say again, I have had it in a bill before. It was never on owner-occupied property. So there are some limited circumstances where I could see that it would have to be used, but it was very, very limited. And as I said, when I used it, it was where the SNPs is a union activity. We didn't end up having to use it because it did make it work. But now I do understand that just by having it in the bill, that made that person have to make a decision. But maybe they didn't want to use it. Not trying to say that, but I have never used it on my house.
Well, that's my answer. People want to bring a trip over road. That's my answer. I'm sticking with
how long people have been places and their opportunities. They didn't have an opportunity to buy over in Holly Hill. They didn't have an opportunity to buy on Lindo. They didn't have an opportunity to buy in Wilmore Park. Because let's talk about St. Louis, the home of the restricted covenants that said black people could not even live in certain neighborhoods. Okay? So for years we had these kinds of laws that didn't allow us, black people to buy in. And we also are famous for having members, the first members of the Board of Alderman, Alderman Clay, and I'm talking about Bill Clay, who became a congressman. He's the person that back many years ago sponsored a public accommodation bill because we had aldermen down here that were members of the Board of Aldermen that couldn't even go into restaurants or to places because St. Louis didn't allow them to. So now we shoot up a few more years. We get here, we have a black president, and racism is gone, and sexism is gone, and ageism is gone, and so we're just all doing things of what's in the best interest. We are not going to talk about that because that's the past, and so we don't want to talk about how anyway, we're gonna just talk about, that's too bad, you're the easiest people to do this to. And so we will do this to you. We're not listening to, the people who are telling us, protesters telling us we don't like what you're doing. And I'm not just talking about people that sitting up here in upstairs there, I'm talking about young people who are not listening. We are tone deaf with, what we wanna do. And it's okay.
You're hanging today, huh?
I got sent a, article about 9 ways privileged people can reduce the negative impact of gentrification. And there's some really good ideas about this. The first one is understand that when you're doing gentrification, and that's what this is that you don't have to displace people. You don't have to move them out. You need to work with them. Get them at the table. If this is really such a great idea, then like minds can agree. We've had years, 6 years before Paul McGee was around here, to know that we might use the more land. Why haven't we been negotiating with the people at that time? Why haven't we? And I know that Ocean said that we could not use any kind of contingencies to buy in case we got that. But I think that is just awful. So I've been writing to people, the federal government, and as have the neighbors, to find out, is that even true? Really? You really can't do this? Where is it? I'm still asking that question. Where is it that says that we cannot use some kind of contingency that we'll buy your property if we need to, and have come to some kind of agreement with you? I don't think that's what we want to do. I think it's easier. We got the votes, we strong arm it. We got a good cause now. We're saving 3,000 jobs. That's great. It didn't sound good for Paul McGee. That wasn't going to be something that maybe we could get the people to vote, some other people to vote for. But when you start talking about 3,000 jobs, people get very selfish. So the people who are not affected says, well, we need those jobs. We need that. Now, if it was their house, it would be a different story. But because it's not their house, they think that's all right, and they're willing to do it. And I think everybody needs to put themselves in a place that they be doing this to their mother, their grandmother, to their aunt, to their uncle, to their family members. Would it be okay if one of your family members was in the middle of this? Would you really be pushing to take their property if your grandparent had owned a piece of property for 50 or 60 years? I know I wouldn't. I'm unfortunate. On my husband's side, we had and bought his grandfather's 4-family flat in the 4800 block of Market. And we keep that up, and he bought that in the 50s. First time he could buy a piece of property, and he was so proud of it. So I understand his thing. He was so proud of it. He died at 98, and he was so proud to be able to own property. And he kept that, and so we wanted to keep that in the family. We have a piece of property that black people own since the 50s. A lot of times, African Americans don't get to do that. You lose your property, you own property down south. It was tricked out, you were tricked of it, you didn't do certain things and you lost it. We have the same thing on my side. My grandmother was never able to afford property. And when my uncle got out of the Vietnam War, he had 3 sons that went to war. 2 of them were in Vietnam, 2 of them at the same time. One of them came out and bought his mother a house because she had never had the privilege of being able to own property as a black woman. And so she is so proud of my family still has that. We are property owners, a couple of generations now, but I still know the time when we could not be property owners. So I'm very, very aware of that's not something I want to take away from people, and especially their homestead. In looking at what kind of things I've been doing research, one of the things that the Missouri Revised Statute is talking about is that if you do a eminent domain, there is a determination of homestead taking inheritance value. That's so interesting to me. So we place a value on your homestead and take this, and when I look around and I see these Native Americans who are also my ancestors, we came over to a land, many of us, and we took a land in which people were already here, we renamed them. Our history is not a clean one, it's not clean hand. We renamed them, you're Indians, because we discovered you. Never mind, you're not an Indian, but you're Indians. So I don't use the term, they were Native Americans, they helped us. If they had not helped many of our ancestors, we would not have made it. But they looked at the land a different way. They looked at land as something that you respected. You took just what you needed, you didn't take too much, and that's how it worked. And that was the same way they did in Africa and many other things. We decided that we could own land, we could buy it up, we kept spreading out, and so we have a value. But, so we decided that we can make it, and it's revised, Missouri Revised Statutes 523.061 that talks about what is the value of homestead taking the heritage value. So after we do all this to them, we can give people more money because you actually may have a heritage and a value to living in your own community. That's the very value that people keep discounting. But I know from living next door to a person who lived to be 102 years old, there is a value living next door to someone. There is a value to getting up and speaking to your same neighbors year after year. There is a value as you get older and being familiar in your circumstances and being able to stay in your own homes. And there is a value in neighborhood, and there's a value in people who stay in their property year after year, even though the city has purposely, disinvested in their property, and purposely told them that they have little or no value, but they have a decency and a grace and determination to say, this is my home, I'm not going to let it come down, I'm going to put my time and energy into keeping my house up, I'm going to keep my property up, and I'm going to wait for the city to be wrong. I'm lucky as an investor. The Alderman of the 3rd Ward came along and put all those $500 million all around my property. But 20 years ago, I could remember the comptroller, when Comptroller Burns Jones said to me, why do you all put so much money in that property? People didn't believe that it could happen. Things can happen. Any neighborhood can turn around if you want to put enough money. I know what the 6th Ward used to look like, down in Lafayette Square, I know the 2nd Ward used to look like. I know what the West End used to look like. If you put enough money, then you can have things turn around. But we determined that the money usually goes to white neighborhoods, and we value black property, black neighborhoods. And so we determined that North St. Louis is black, which again, I would say, there are many white people sitting up here that live in North St. Louis. And if it was all black, if it was all white, I would still take the same position. We have no business taking people's property or, something that's specific as an evil plan at work. I hope that you remember that eminent domain is eminent domain first. It is a taking of personal property against the owner's right. It is very interesting. This country was founded on we're not able to get representation with we're paying taxes. I would just really wonder what our forefathers would think of eminent domain. If that was something they really contemplated, that we would be able to come into your house and say, yes, you kept your house up, you paid for all your taxes, you've done what you were supposed to do. We, the city, have not done what we're supposed to do, yet we are going to come in and value your property, value your determination, value your right to property owner and take that. I can just imagine if somebody would come to the United States and want to do that on a bigger level. It is wrong. I hope that we remember that we do not have these jobs. And if this is going to get passed, I hope that the sponsor of this bill will be open to coming back and adding a sunset clause that says, if we do not get these jobs, that we take the eminent domain laws out so that we cannot have these people living under the threat of what if, maybe, and what are we going to do? I don't believe that they really need 136 acres. The White House doesn't need but a few acres. The FBI doesn't need but a few acres. But we're taking them as we gotta have 136 acres. That's gotta be that they were looking to go someplace further. I mean, someplace rural, or someplace out in the suburbs. You don't ask for that kind of acreage in urban community. And I'm here, am opposed to this board bill and hope that we can
We have a lot of visitors today, and we have to maintain a certain amount of decorum in the chambers. So please hold your applause and everything so we can continue to move the meeting and everybody gets an opportunity to clear the debate. Alderman for the 11th, and ask.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to briefly state my objections to Board Bill 263. I just really feel that the track record of the principles involved in Northside regeneration is festive. I don't see anything positive that they have ever accomplished other than get $50 million worth of tax credits from the state of Missouri, which wound up expiring because they just didn't quite turn that first shovel in dirt. And again, I said last week, I think it's silly to get up here and get personal. I will not do that. I know it's the only show in town, but it's a bad show. There's nothing that they can point to that is evidence that they are good developers. They filed for a certificate of need to build a 2-bed emergency hospital, waited about 5 weeks, and they decided, well, I'm just going to move it 2.5 blocks this way. So it's in this particular plan. You can imagine the drawings were very well done. We just decided in 2 weeks we're just going to move this emergency hospital. Okay. Mr. President, may I briefly inquire the Alderman for the 24th?
Alderman for the 24th, will you yield for questions to the Alderman for the 11th?
I'll always yield to the Alderman for the 11th.
Alderman for the 11th, please proceed.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. President, we ride bikes together.
I've ridden with Alderman, he's pretty fast.
Both of you are pretty fast, that's my concern sometimes. Alderman, I'm reading with interest here the agenda from the Board of E&A this past Wednesday afternoon, at which they gave approval to Board Bill 259. Board Bill 259 we just did without my help some 22 minutes ago. And that calls for the approval of Board Bill 259 by our city's chief fiscal body. This ordinance approves the First Amendment to the TIF and restated redevelopment agreement with Northside Regeneration LLC. It permits money in the special allocation fund to be used to cover the cost SLDC will incur for Northside project management consulting services pursuant to an agreement dated such and such. And that's going to be with MWH America Inc. I think last week I inquired as to who the principals were there, and we didn't know. We did see their letterhead. So we know they have a letterhead. I guess my question is, if in fact, is it your understanding that this acreage is going to have the luxury of tax increment financing?
Yes, unless I am deeply misinformed, may have happened once or twice in the past. Yeah, if NGA chooses to relocate into this area, we'll be taking this $2.4 million in earnings tax, which it's been the figure used, and I just did the math, and to me that figure looks pretty accurate. We're taking that, which we collect all of right now, of course. We'll be putting that into an area that already has tax increment financing authorized, and I don't have that TIF bill in front of me, the $390 million TIF bill, which we approved, maybe a year ago. But that would mean that the TIF is going to take half the earnings tax. So it's not really accurate to argue.
Would you repeat that?
Yes. It's not really accurate to argue that this is an effort for the city to retain $2.4 million in earnings tax. It's an effort for the city to retain half of that earnings tax, because half is going to go into the TIF fund, and the other half will go into general revenue. And that, of course, doesn't include whatever current revenue we're generating out of the site. There's some businesses, residences there, of course. So the net is not 2.4 million. The net is much closer to 1 million. And in fact, would it really cute if they do relocate there? Just so we're clear-eyed on what the math actually is. We're actually, even with the relocation, we're probably losing about $1.4 million in earnings tax because that would have been a tip. And, you know, this is sort of the pattern. This is the damned if you do, damned if you don't pattern that we have gotten stuck in. And you know, the Alderman from the 21st mentioned Ballpark Village. It's the same situation. You're just robbing from Peter to pay Paul, essentially. We're not selling any more beer downtown than we ever sold before. We're just giving away half the tax revenue on the beer that we do sell. So hopefully that gets to the heart of your question.
Thank you, Alderman. Thank you. Mr. President, just in closing, I don't think this makes sense. I really fear, we did in the 11th Ward, took one home by eminent domain, and when I say we, my predecessor, my nephew, it is nightmarish, and this was one lady. The end result was Loughborough Commons, which has the Schnucks. I mean, it's a wonderful facility that generates a lot of tax, but by God, that one lady did not want to move off of Loughborough. Actually, she lived on South Grand Avenue right behind it. And it's sticky, it's ugly, it's a displacement of what people call home. And as a result of that, that may just be one reason that I think this particular ordinance is ill-advised. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Alderman from 22nd.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I wasn't planning on making any comments, but I think it's only appropriate if you get called out that you can restate your position better than anybody else can. And what I said last week was that the amendment that was placed in this bill was clever, thoughtful, and considerate. And I believe it was you, Mr. President, that offered the amendment in the bill. And the reason I said it was clever, thoughtful, and considerate because it adds another layer to the eminent domain process. What it says is that before SLUC can exercise eminent domain through the court system, that a resolution has to be brought before the HUD's committee. At that time, the HUD's committee can vote that resolution up or down. And let's suppose that they voted up for passage. It still has to come before the Board of Alderman, this body, and get 15 votes out of 29. That is why I suggested that it was clever, thoughtful, and considerate. Now, in the history of me being down here, that has never been in a piece of legislation that had eminent domain. And I would like to know if there's any senior alderman down here that knows if it's ever in the history of them being down here for 30 years being in a piece of legislation. So again, I suggested it was clever, thoughtful, and considerate. Now, what the alderman from the first ward suggested was, it's like holding a loaded gun up to somebody's head. Well, not the way I analogize this bill, because if it is a loaded gun up to somebody's head, it has no bullets, because they'll have to come back to the Board of Alderman and the HUD's committee to load it. And then they have to come back to the full board to fire it. So I disagree that it's a loaded gun. And what's so great about public discourse is we all have an opinion. It doesn't mean that one person's opinion is better than the next person's opinion. What we do with our opinions is we massage them and we try to make a bill that's bad good, or we can make a bill that's good better. That is what public discourse is all about. That is why we have people that are against it, whether they're the legislative body or the public. And that's why we also have people that may be for it. Now, it was brought up if someone would do it to their family. Well, my mom, and we talk quite often, she lives on the corner of Emerson and Lillian. And I bet you a year's salary that if you offered a bill with eminent domain, she'd be one of the first people to call you and say, when you gonna buy my house? Because she's tired of living around all the chaos that goes on in her neighborhood. She's lived over there for over 30 years. So in this process, there'll be some people that's happy about what's going on, and there'll be some people that's sad about what's going on. Unfortunately, a legislative body cannot make everybody happy. Unfortunately, sometimes there's winners and there's losers. Now, my personal philosophy in life is about a win-win strategy in which we all can win. And again, what I like about this board bill with the amendments, Mr. President, that you put on the bill is that it gives an added layer of protection. If eminent domain will be authorized, it will be the HUD's committee that starts it. It would not be this full body. But if this full body agrees with the HUD's committee, then it shall happen. The authorization, until then, it will never happen. So that is my position on the bill. And I stand by the fact that it is clever, it was thoughtful, and it was considered. Thank you.
Alderman first.
Mr. Board, I'm quite sure that Alderman can speak for his mother. I can't speak for my mother, but she's an independent person, so I would never dare to do that. But I will say that if he is true in speaking for his mother and saying that she would be glad to have it, then she is not the person that Ms. Taylor is, who is not glad to have it. I am not speaking to the people who say, buy me out, I would take this is what I want to do. Because you don't need eminent domain for those people, because they will sell you their land. So that is not what eminent domain speaks to, first of all. Second of all, just because we think something is clever, I do not cut hair. So if you let me cut your hair, I might think it's a clever haircut, but you will be in trouble, okay? There are people who are trained to do things. My mother always told me about business and varied opinions. Yes, we are elected and we can have varied opinions, but some of them have more learned opinions than others. If you cut hair, you have a better opinion than I do about how to cut hair, okay? If you march and you're a soldier, you have more insight about being a soldier than I do. But although you may not think that this is legal down here, the Board of Alderman, we passed legal legislation. And I've been down here not 30 years, because I had my little party in which I was on, but I've been down here long enough, and I can answer that no, I never saw this put into something that says you have to, this amendment that you have to come back to the board. But I also was not given upfront a notice after leaving your office when someone else is supposed to have it. So I don't want to get into what happened. I'm being not closed mouth, but I can open up and tell everything. I can say, but I'm not going to do that because you're not the one raising the point. The Alderman from the 22nd is raising the point, but it's some more points that I can make, okay? Now I'm just not. I'm going to say this. It does not, it is a step to say it has to come back as I understood it. In order to have a resolution, it doesn't come back to the HUD committee. Someone has to introduce it on the floor. Then it comes to the HUD committee, then it comes back. I do know that we were talking about it. That's not what was explained to me in committee where the Alderman from the 22nd was not there. It was that it would have to have a resolution introduced here on this floor, and then it would have to go to the HUD committee, and then it would have to come back here. So that is how I understood it. So if it's different, that's the understanding that I got. I was asking questions, not making assumptions. So the whole thing about what's good and what's not, it is in the eye of who is being, the Alderman from the 4th used to be Berkman, she was elected right when I was in 91, and she used to always talk about whose ox is being pulled. And I was so appreciative of not only her, but the 15th Ward Alderman at that time was George Osborne, because I had 2 women that I could go and talk to about things in very different perspectives, very different. And often I would be in the office, and they would talk about what they had experienced. But Bertha Mitchell would always talk about whose ox is being gored. If your ox is being gored, that's not a good thing. I just saw a little cartoon on Facebook, and people were rabbit hunting, and the guys were all talking about how fun it was to rabbit hunt. And then the rabbit has it done. And the guys all talking about it's no more fun when the rabbit has it done, okay? Yeah, so it is a great thing when it's not you. It's a whole different thing when the rabbit has it done. So what I think is, just because you put something in, and just because I think it's a clever thing, doesn't make it be clever. It's just that I think it, or I might be running for re-election, and I have to explain to people why I voted for eminent domain, and therefore I want to put something out here and make it about me. I was here for the Alderman from the 22nd was here. In fact, if we want to get into it, I can produce all this literature about what he said when he ran it. I still have it on my computer versus what he's doing down here, okay? Now, I don't want to get into that, so I'll ask him.
Point of order.
Alderman, if you want to state the point of order, please rise and come to the mic and state your point of order.
Mr. President, this is a very emotional issue that we're dealing with here today. It's very hard for a number of people. But to go ahead and start ranting about one of our colleagues down here about an election and campaign issues is completely off topic.
Point of order, well taken. Alderman from the first, his election, past elections are not being debated on the floor today. What is being debated today is the points within this bill. There wasn't any prior reference to his campaign by him or anything, so please keep your points relevant to what's before us today.
Thank you, Mr. President, I surely will, but I will reference that he indicated that somehow that this was a great amendment. It's not, and he indicated something different than what you all told me that the amendment was in committee. Now, I don't know if we have a point in which we can bring a resolution straight to committee without bringing it on the floor, okay? I haven't ever experienced that either. Maybe that's something new that you all changed while I was taking my vacation. But normally, when we do a resolution, we bring it to the full board, somebody has to sponsor it. Who's gonna sponsor it, okay? Then it has to go to HUDs. Then it have to come back out here. So
that's the exact process.
Oh, so what he said was incorrect, all right? That's what I want people to know. That is not the correct way that it was told to me, all right? And so the other thing is who's gonna do it, okay? So we did this. So the Alderman from the 5th, is she gonna do it? Is anybody gonna do it? Who's gonna sponsor this?
If nobody sponsors it, nobody can take up any domain.
Okay, but who's gonna sponsor this? We didn't, because there's some things that we didn't cover because this was a last minute done in committee. And just for a point of order, and I don't know if I can ask this now, it was put on my desk, 263 floor substitute. Are we bringing this up? Is this gonna be before us? I don't know, does other people have this on their desk? And is this something we're?
That is the bill.
The floor substitute that he just put here? This is a different, oh, this is the bill we did. Okay. Thank you very much. So, it's not that I'm not saying that we're not trying to add something, I'm saying that it was missing something, and at the end of the day, it is still eminent domain, okay? And that is what I am opposed to. So if you're eminent domain, we got one parcel at a time, and if you come to Ms. Taylor's house and Ms. Jones' house, and we're saying we need these 3,000 jobs, we're gonna do it. Now, are we gonna do it if we don't have it, but we have another development? Yes, we're going to do it. We're not saying, but we got this other development, because hope lives eternal. And so we're doing development based on hope versus doing development based on what we actually have, okay? And so we don't feel good when we do in the domain and we don't have something to tell people because people are pretty much opposed to it. I mean, so we have to have something that we can say it's all right to vote for this. So if we say we got this added level of protection, but it's a protection with eminent domain. So it may be an added level of protection to you, but to me, it is still not removing eminent domain from it or even putting a sunset clause on it so that if that's what we're doing. And that is I'm going to remain opposed to it. I don't think it was a very well worked together, thought out plan. And I know it wasn't, because I know we didn't have any time except for when we came in. And so I don't speak to what I thought, I'm speaking to what I was actually in the committee and what was going on.
Alderman from the 21st.
Thank you, Mr. President. I really want to thank the Alderman from the 11th and the Alderman from the 24th for their exchange earlier to brought out information that I really was not conscious of. For some reason, I was not thinking that the TIP sucked up half of this earnings tax money. Now, when you include that, that actually takes in, that changes the whole calculation. So currently, right now, that area generates earnings tax, property tax, and sales tax. People that live there pay property taxes, they work, they pay earnings taxes, there are businesses there, with employees that pay both earnings tax
and sales tax on their sales. And so that area generates a certain amount of tax revenue right now. Now, if the NGA was to relocate there, being a government entity, a federal government entity, they would not pay any property tax whatsoever. They would not pay any sales tax whatsoever. In fact, the only tax revenue we would get would be earnings tax on their employees. And now we're learning that actually half of that would go to the city, and half of that would go to Mr. McKee and his project. Is disturbing. Now, I didn't think it was true. I see some shaky heads now, so I confirmed this with Otis over there, or Williams. He confirmed that that earnings tax will go to this tip. Now, that, to me, is very disturbing. And this all can really be worked out in a simple spreadsheet that would show how much sales tax and property tax, along with earnings tax, is generated currently from that area. And then compare that to the potential earnings tax revenue minus 50% that would then come to the city. And so even just as an economic deal, this is much less appealing now. And that's information that frankly should have come out when we were considering this in committee. And frankly, it should be attached in the form of some fiscal note to this bill, which it is not. We do not have fiscal note. You don't have fiscal notes down here. But there should be a fiscal note to show exactly what the impact would be. And we're being told, and being on the head, post-dispatch editorials, and comments from people from Wilmington 100, this is all about the money, and how can we sit back and possibly vote against a deal that would cause us to lose almost $3 million or $2.5 million in earnings tax, and never mention that we don't get half of that. Now, that's just wrong. And it shows that we're not doing due diligence down here and just crunching the numbers. So what is it that we're actually getting in earnings tax? What is the difference between the current revenue we generate from that area, from the existing homeowners, property owners, workers, businesses, and then what's the difference? And if it comes out that it's a difference of $200,000, and that's what we threw out people's property rights for. And that's when we gambled with using eminent domain to take their homes and flatten the entire area and risk the possibility of being like these municipalities in the St. Louis area that exercise eminent domain only to have a project never realized. Then that's something we should know. We should make informed decisions. To me, that just makes no sense. And then it also clicks and oh, I see why Alderman McKee wants to do this thing there. I see why the mayor's office, of all the vacant land in the city of St. Louis, chooses that area. Because Mr. McKee has been unable to get any significant development in that area since we passed that deal. Has been unable to generate any tip revenue for his project. And by locating NGA in the middle of his site, it gives him at least $1 million a year in tip. Now, that's something we should have talked about in committee. And that's something we should know and discuss and see the spreadsheet on that to really see what this deal is valued at. Because just with that information that came out from discussion between the Alderman from the 24th and the 11th, that's 50% less than I probably was talking about before. So these are decisions we can make. So again, fiscal notes on bills, I think are good things. And in light of all the things we've seen in the St. Louis City and St. Louis region in the last few months, on bills like this, for lack of a better term, there should be a racial note to it. We should talk about the racial impact of these things. The city of St. Louis has a long history of doing these kind of things. Many of the areas we're driving to now, we was shocked. Many people would be shocked to learn that African Americans used to live there. There used to be black neighborhoods there. And we do this all the time in the city of St. Louis, where we flatten African American neighborhoods, relocate